Awesome, Mike. I'm so excited to be here, and I need to apologize about like the room. I wish I had something fancy like you do with like the light up, like the cloud and stuff in the back. I love the name. But I'm in my hotel room because I'm actually at KubeCon, trying to, working to build community here in the States. I'm sure maybe some of you have heard about what KubeCon is, maybe some, maybe not, but yeah, so I'm happy to be here from my hotel room in Atlanta.
Farrah is on fire. Farrah has superpower.
Okay, so we have to figure out how to do this, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to try this again because, okay, here we go. Sorry, we're just gonna go to this. And I think, sorry, one second.
No problem, no
You
problem.
guys see it when I just did that? There we go. It'll be this, share. Uh, Here we go. Are
Oh,
we good?
amazing presentation. The stay. Farrah is with you.
All right. So, yeah. So I'm really actually excited to be here to close the event. I'm actually honored that you asked me to participate. This is such an incredible day of learning, and the things that Rox does in the community it inspires me too. But so I want to talk a little bit about how I've grown my career. And it's really been through, trust, being curious, and mostly from participating in the community. So a bit about me. I'm the head of developer advisory and modern compute, the modern compute community at AWS. And really what I do is I champion developer voices across the cloud and open source communities. And I really work to try to bridge gaps between our product teams, people who use their services, and then help others like Rocks that are helping people in their communities to teach and learn. So I really kind of have a pretty awesome job. Um, I'm a career changer. I didn't come from a traditional background. I have no computer science degree. It's only been curiosity, courage, and consistency that's helped me to grow my career. Um, and like I would say, I first discovered the cloud, through AWS from like Lambda. But I've definitely stayed in this community because of the people and like everything that we do here to help others. I'm also now, like I say, I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a connector, and I really tried to work really hard to create spaces, where developers, where they're seen, they're heard, and they feel empowered. And I'm a single mom. My journey, I really feel like it helps to, prove that your starting point doesn't define your destination. I never imagined I would be where I'm at today. And I'm still working to trust myself. But I do think that I've learned a few things along the way. And like, maybe we can go ahead and get into that. So, um, when we talk about career growth, we focus on titles, we focus on skills, certifications. But what really scales your career, I think, especially in tech, isn't just about your technical proficiency. It's the infrastructure behind how you actually show up. And for me, that infrastructure has three pillars. It's trust, curiosity, and community. And I don't think that these are soft skills. These are durable assets. And just like cloud infrastructure, they help me to handle scale, resilience, and change. Um, Curiosity is what got me in the door, because I was curious to learn more about the community and, what was the cloud all about and what are people using it for and how they build applications. But trust is really what's helped me to stay and to grow. But community it's actually the force multiplier. It's really the engine that took like my isolated efforts and turned them into to a lot of impact. Sorry. So I guess like as I kind of continue on in this talk, I really want you to think about your career is like not as a solo climb, but it's a system that needs to scale sustainably. So trust, curiosity, and community, they're not nice to have. They're non-negotiable. I think if you really want to build something that lasts. And I'm gonna like we'll get into like a little bit about how each of these have shaped my path and hopefully maybe how they might help shape yours. Um, so in cloud, we obsess over about how to scale systems. It's uptime, throughput, latency. But what about scaling yourself, your confidence, your capacity, your sense of belonging? Especially when you come into tech, I think from a non-traditional path, that these things can be really hard. Systems are engineered to scale predictably. People, we don't not so much. We scale through discomfort, we scale through uncertainty, and a lot of growth. And for people like me, and maybe you, self doubt can scale even faster than your GitHub contributions. I mean, and I'll ask how many people here watching this stream have held themselves back, from pursuing a new job, maybe a speaking opportunity, or anything really due to their own self doubt. And because, like, we often think about things about ourselves, they disqualify us. But I've come to find that these things that we often think that disqualify us, they actually help to make us stand out. And your story, no matter how messy, no matter how nonlinear or how different, that is actually what gives you perspective. It gives you empathy. It can give you drive. And that's incredibly powerful. My first attempts to break into tech, it took me a year of applying consistency. Everything until then was met with rejection. My resume didn't check all the boxes, but I had a lot of questions. I was open to continuing to try to push forward and learning. And I had to kind of learn how to deal with that uncomfortableness, and how to deal with that self doubt. And I think that we often treat imposter syndrome like it's some warning, something that says you're not ready, you're not qualified, you're not enough. But I really learned to see this as like a sign of growth. It shows up when I'm doing something bold, something new, something that's stretching me, beyond who I am today. So imposter syndrome to me means that like I'm in motion, I'm doing something cool. Um, and then curiosity really opens doors that confidence cannot. When you walk into a room and you leave with only confidence, especially if it's, perceived as performative, you might unintentionally, close off opportunities with other people or feedback that people might give to you, or maybe just a connection with a person. But curiosity, it creates movement. It invites conversation, it invites collaboration, it invites growth. So for me, like confidence didn't come first, and it's still not here all the way, but curiosity continues to. Um, I also learned that use my instead of having imposter syndrome, I rechanneled that to help me to push harder, to prepare more, to ask more questions. It helped me to build deeper connections, and eventually, and I wouldn't say it like imposter syndrome has disappeared. It's just stopped being the boss of me. You don't overcome it by proving you're perfect. You overcome it by, getting comfortable, being in motion, being messy, being brave, and still being willing to learn. Um, and I think curiosity has really helps you to kind of find your people. When I started in the cloud in 2018, when I joined a company called Stackery, and there I found my people. It was the serverless community. And then it became the containers community too. But these folks, they didn't care where I came from. They didn't care what credentials I had. What they cared about is that I showed up. So I wasn't fluent in cloud yet, but I was fluent in community, and this was incredibly helpful. At this time, it wasn't really the technology that drew me in, and all of this was exciting. Serverless was just starting, and But like the people that were participating, they were also curious. They were generous with their time and their knowledge, and we were all learning from one another, sharing information, curious about the technology and what it was, what it was enabling for others. And so it was really kind of an instrumental time to, kind of be a part of this. And it was a turning point for me because I finally started to feel at home. And this is after me being in tech for, 2.5 years. And what I realized is that I didn't need to know everything to kind of get started. I just needed to try to continue to show up, to stay curious, and to then contribute where I could. And I have built lasting connections in the community. And here's the truth. You don't need to know everything to belong. Sometimes belonging becomes more before mastery. And I think that's really enough, to help get you started. It does take time though. So trust doesn't scale overnight. And, the work that you do, but it does compound. And I kind of like want to think about this like in, a few different steps. So as I gain more trust, I meet new people, I form new relationships, I learn new information. And you see this kind of as a common pattern in my career. I started in serverless, it went to DevOps, Kubernetes, and now it's more an open source, and it continues to build. And I really thought real hard about like, my journey about like, how did I want to belong when I first started participating? I knew I needed to be consistent. Everything has to be steady over time. You have to keep showing up when you say you're going to show up. And that your reputation, when you do show up, how do you make people feel? What do they say when you leave the room? And these relationships that you're trying to build, you need to make sure that these are built on being relationships. These cannot be transactional. I focus more on building connections with people rather than just getting something from someone. It's never about that for me. And as you meet new people, you start to become more and more empathetic, and you start to understand the needs of others. You can provide, it's easier to provide grace, and you have to listen to other people's needs. And I think, making sure that you are, you're giving without expecting immediate returns. You can't show up at an event, volunteer at an event, or do something with somebody expecting that they're going to now give you something. But this does happen within time. There is a thing called the law of reciprocity. And so I think these things are also, very, very important. And I actually really like that when I can find some data to prove kind of like my thinking on things. And I found this trust equation, and this model was built from the Trusted Advisor, and it breaks down trust into, 4 parts. And it talks about, it's not a mystery, it's a formula. So the steps are, credibility, what you say and how knowledgeable you are. Reliability is like your consistency and your follow through. Intimacy is how emotionally safe and seen others feel with you. And then self-orientation is how much of your behavior is about you versus the people that you're trying to serve. And so I felt like this kind of helps put a method to my madness, and, kind of proves that I'm on the right track. And community really for me isn't just where I showed up. It's actually where I grew up professionally. I mentioned earlier that I didn't have a traditional tech background or degree in computer science. I wasn't building computers when I was, young. But what I did have is curiosity, courage to ask questions, and a really deep desire to learn. But it was the community, the open source projects, the meetups, the forums, the Twitter threads, the conference halls, the late night DMs, the Twitch platforms, the Twitch streams, the Discord channels. These have really all became my learning lab. So like community didn't just help me grow. I think it definitely helped me grow, but there was something that started to happen kind of over time. And I started to really realize something a little bit bigger. And I realized that, community is also telemetry. So everything I was hearing, everything that all the conversations I was having with people, at the events or, online, these aren't just opinions. They ended up being signals. So these are signals that were telling us, what's not landing well, what's broken, what's missing, signals that can inform product decisions, messaging strategies, roadmap prioritization. So I started to use all these signals as community telemetry to advocate for a better developer experience, to create programs rooted in what people like actually needed. And that actually helped me to, start earning trust by backing ideas, with this external feedback that I was able to provide from really a global audience. So from Stackery, I really honed in on this, and I brought that with me. I started sharing any insights that I had been capturing that I would hear at conferences, on text, you name it, and I would tell them this is my community telemetry. So I think really, community helped me grow my skills. It helped me to figure out where to belong, but it also really helped me to listen, to synthesize, and to translate external signals into internal impact. And that's really how I believe I've grown a lot by, at AWS, is by, listening to everything that you all are saying and trying to synthesize that information in a way that teams can understand. I didn't become influential by being loud. I want to make sure that people understand, like, you don't have to be loud to gain influence. I became influential by listening deeply, connecting patterns, and relaying insights that helped our product teams act faster and with more empathy. I wasn't a product manager. I've never been a VP, but I've always been a connector. And because I listen to community feedback, I try to translate that to action. It helped me to become a trusted voice. So I think it doesn't start with a title. It definitely starts with listening. I can talk about a ton of things. I know Rox has been on a number of calls where we're capturing feedback to help, to help, I guess, define our external roadmaps. And so it's been a really impactful. It's been a really impactful signal for me to translate back to AWS to continue to gain influence and trust there. So I think like career growth also is not linear, but it builds. So each role in tech I have has been very different. I was a office manager to director of operations to ecosystems director, and now then I was a product marketing manager at AWS, and now I'm the head of developer advisory. I've had to really trust myself each time I moved. And every time I do this, I feel like I'm starting kind of from scratch, but I'm not. I'm building. Nobody's journey is a straight line. Each step, each challenge, it compounds into growth. It's messy, but that's okay, because careers, they take unexpected twists and turns. It doesn't always end up like we originally planned. And for me, that is definitely better. Each role you build on your skills, the experiences you gain, you accumulate more information and experience through all this iterative growth. And that growth compounds over time, creating, impact. It helps you to remain adaptable, to navigate change, to embrace new challenges. I mean, I think about how important being adaptable is right now, as we're all dealing with the new AI movement. In fact, it's been interesting to be at KubeCon, and everything is kind of, I feel like it just says like now with AI. And I really think it's also really important to recognize and celebrate your progress along the way. I mean, again, like everything that we're doing, these are small steps that compound over time, and it might not always seem noticeable to you. Okay, so I feel like I've talked too fast, but what I really want to leave you with today is, for a long time, I really believed that readiness was something that you waited for, that you had to earn it quietly alone and then reveal it once it was perfect. But the truth is, readiness doesn't come before action. It comes because of it. You don't feel ready until you take the first step, and the next one, and the next one after that. And for me, like that first step was asking a question, and then that built on a relationship, and I continued to show up. And every time I have, somebody has shown up for me too. And ever since I got started in tech, each one of my jobs has come from a relationship that I've built within the community. And I really think that's the power of community. It helps to hold doors open while we're still figuring things out. Community helps you to believe in your potential before your resume catches up. And when you lead with being helpful and participating, community, these are the things that actually help get you invited back to like tell your story. So if you're waiting to feel ready, don't. Just start. You did that today by showing up, asking questions in the chat. So keep being bold and bold enough to build, because the truth is, I think that we're all a lot more ready than we actually realize and give ourselves the credit for. I love the AWS community. This is how I got started. I am so grateful for all the relationships and the people that I've met, the people like that I get to help work with, and people like Rox. So here's my contact information if anybody wants to connect. I hope you can scan it from this stream. And I just want to say thank you so much to all of you, but also to like Rox for all the maybe amazing things that she continues to do in all of the communities that she participates in.
Thank you, Farrah. Beautiful presentation. And thank you for being part of my RoxsFest 2025. But so now I want to see happy birthday with me.
We're going to sing?
Yes.
Okay.
I my cake.
Okay.
And the lights.
Okay, I gotta get my. I would have practiced my. All right.
Community, cante conmigo. Happy
Happy birthday
birthday to you. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy birthday, Rox. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. Thank you, Farrah. This is my first day. Thank you for the accepting the invitation. Thank you. Thank you. See
Thank
you.
you. Like, what? Can I just say, I will never forget following you when I first started AWS and continuing to like watch all the amazing things that you have done to enable others to learn, and the way you dissect information and present it to everybody. It is incredible, and I feel honored to know and to be able to help try to support you with the things that you do. So thank you so much from the bottom of my, for inviting me today. I feel completely honored and just really special. And I can't wait to see you at reInvent.
Yes. See you soon, Farrah. Thank you. In their event, they send the amazing gift for you.
I can't wait.